Southeastern 14. We're talking more college football. I'm Chase Robinson. Thanks for joining us, checking out this video. Go ahead and like it. Subscribe to the Southeastern 14 YouTube channel if you have not already, so you can see all the great content we put out. And again, we're going to be talking some spring football in this video. But first, we want to remind you about our friends at Bet Online. It is your number one source for all of your summer sports. You got Major League Baseball, you got NBA, NHL, golf, all the latest stats, all the latest news and scores from your favorite teams. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. And the games have started, the spring games. We've had a couple of already, but we had a full day this past Saturday. 8 spring games were played on April the 13th. And so we're going to give you a thought on each of the 8 teams that we saw in spring games. Now, you don't learn a ton about teams in spring football games. The way they've evolved, it's become more of a practice for the teams. They don't really want to show anything. It's televised. And so you don't learn a ton about teams. But we certainly were able to gather some things on these teams. So we'll share one thought on each of the 8 teams we saw. And then we're going to be diving more deep into each team as we move through the spring, talking about their spring games, having some guests on that were there. So be paying attention to the Southeastern 14 YouTube channel for more in-depth spring game content over the coming days. But I want to share a thought on each of the 8 teams. We'll go alphabetical order. So we'll start with the Alabama Crimson Tide. Here's a thought from their spring game on Saturday. The running game will be strong. And I'll add once again to the end of that line. They looked good on Saturday. The running backs did. Jam Miller, he was the MVP of Alabama's A-Day game. 8 carries, 83 yards, 2 touchdowns. Richard Young also showed a lot of power on the ground for the Crimson Tide. So Alabama fans, get ready for another strong running back room. And I think that you can add Jalen Milroe into that as well, because he can be strong on the ground as well, running the football. So I think Alabama is in good shape as far as running backs go. And again, an exciting A-Day game for Alabama. Kalen DeBoer's first game leading the Crimson Tide. 72,000 strong there in Tuscaloosa for Alabama's A-Day game. But one thought from Alabama is that running back room is going to be strong once again. The Arkansas Razorbacks, another team that we saw this past Saturday. And one positive for Arkansas is the offensive line has been revamped. I mean, you're looking at only returning one guy that played on the offensive line a season ago for the Hogs, Josh Braun. They have brought in several transfers, 3 guys who have transferred in who most likely will be starting on the offensive line. They're bigger, they're quicker, and new offensive coordinator Bobby Petrino has been very high on the group all spring long, and we were able to see that in the spring game on Saturday, that this offensive line is what they've been needing there at Arkansas. You think about the players they've had in the backfield for the Razorbacks the last few years and how they really haven't lived up to their potential because the offensive line has been a struggle. They have gone out and kind of rebuilt that. And hey, Sam Pittman is really working to get that side of the ball back to where it's supposed to be. That's kind of his specialty. And so the offensive line looking much better for the Arkansas Razorbacks. Here's a thought on the Florida Gators following their spring game. Their backfield is looking top-notch. They've added some guys. Jordan Ball had a great day, 77 yards on 12 carries. Jacoby Jackson had 60 yards in the game running the football. And Montrell Johnson didn't get a lot of touches, but he's very proven. He's been there the last couple of years there with the Gators. So I think Florida's going to be running the football a lot this year. Billy Napier has done that in the past with teams he's coached. Graham Mertz, very proven quarterback. He looked good as well. But that ground game, Florida's going to try to work the ground a lot this year. I have a feeling just based off what I saw in their spring game. The Georgia Bulldogs looking once again to reload, and they have reloaded big time on offense. Now, questions about receivers. You're losing some of the top receivers in the country from last year. Ladd McConkey at wide receiver. Of course, Brock Bowers, the tight end who caught a lot of balls. But the offense loaded once again, and especially at the receiver positions. And that was some questions we had. Could these receivers step up? Could Carson Beck quickly get on the same page? And boy, watching the spring game, it sure looked like they are already on the same page. Ra Thomas looked great. You've got Arian Smith, Dylan Bell, Colby Young, Dominic Lovett. Those guys are going to be dangerous with Carson Beck. And, he looked good. We know what kind of quarterback he is. I think he's improved a lot in the offseason. With those weapons around him, watch out. Georgia's offense is going to be dangerous. And, again, they're loaded once again this year. Got to imagine the defense, they're working on that as well. But really impressed with Georgia's offense in their spring game on Saturday. With the Kentucky Wildcats, they're also working to improve the offense. Brock Vandagriff, Georgia transfer to Kentucky. He's improved a lot over the offseason, and I think that's really going to help the Wildcats. And what they spent a lot of time on this spring was his short and medium passes. We know he's got a great arm on him. He can throw the long ball, but they're really working on maybe the short passes in the flat, the medium throws for Vandagriff, and it looked good on Saturday. And I think with his run game, pairing it with being able to work all the way down the field in different situations, I think Brock Vandagriff is really going to help this offense with Kentucky. For the LSU Tigers, their defense showing some improvement. We know their offense is good, and you saw that if you watched the LSU spring game this past Saturday. Really, there's the offense is like we thought. Garrett Nussmeier, a great quarterback. He's got weapons all around him. He's going to be making plays. The problem last year was the defense. Couldn't stop anybody. Even with Jaden Daniels, the Heisman Trophy winner on offense, the defense really struggled. The defensive line looks much, much better this year, just from what I observed in the spring game. Secondary, still some struggles, but I think they're going to hit the portal and pick up some guys and fill some holes and some pieces there in the secondary. But I liked what I saw from the defensive line of LSU. They looked good. They had 7 sacks and 13 tackles for loss in the spring game. And that's much improved from what we saw anytime last year, again, against a good offense there for the LSU Tigers. My thought on the Ole Miss Rebels. So this was it's not surprising Lane Kiffin goes outside of the box for a lot of things. And he especially did for this year's spring game, or the Grove games, as they called it. Is this the future of spring football? It could be. So what we saw Saturday, if you missed it, there at Oxford, Mississippi, it was not your traditional spring game. You had a 7-on-7 flag football game, and Jackson Dart throwing it all over the yard with his hat backwards and everything. I mean, it was very low-key, casual. Then you had a dunk contest. You had a hot dog eating contest, tug of war, obstacle course, all that with divided in 2 teams, and they scored, and I think the 73-71 or something was the final at the point total from all the games. But Lane Kiffin just wanted the guys to have fun. He wanted it to be relaxed and them to enjoy themselves after a long couple of long few weeks of spring practice. So we see teams not giving as much in spring games. It's become more of a for the fans anyway. And so could this be the future of spring football? It very well could. To see more teams, more coaches just put on an event for their players to have fun. I definitely think that's an option for for some of these teams. But Lane Kiffin kind of maybe starting a trend with what he called the Grove games this past weekend. And our final thought is from the Tennessee Volunteers. That defense is looking the part. I'm a big fan of their offense. Nico Amaliva leading the charge for the Vols on offense this year, but I really liked what I saw from their defense. They could have one of the best defensive lines in the nation. They're big. They cover a lot of room. They worked really hard against, again, a really good offense from Tennessee. Omari Thomas is the name to remember. He looked really strong in that spring game. There's a lot of potential in the defense for Tennessee, and I think, again, they're going to score a lot of points this year on offense, but can their defense keep up? What I saw Saturday in the spring game, I think this is an elite defense that can keep up with a lot of these really high-powered SEC offenses. So I like what I saw in the spring game for the Tennessee Volunteers. And again, we'll be breaking down these teams, all the SEC teams, all spring long with reaction from spring games, transfer portal news, all of that. Any college football news, we're going to have it for you here on Southeastern 14. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and get all the latest notifications when we put out a new video. You can check it out, all the great football, basketball, baseball content that we put out. Also, follow us on Twitter at 14 Southeastern. I'm Chase Robinson with Southeastern 14, covering college football.